YouTube's struggling here. Let's try this. There we go. 5, 4, 3. Takes a while to come through. All right, let's get this going. Hey, everybody. Welcome here to today's used car marketing dealer strategy session. This is one of 6 different webcast panel programs that we conduct here on Auto Conversion as part of the Auto Retail Marketing webcast series. I am Ryan Girardi. Today is Thursday, April 2nd. Thank you for joining us. If you're on the live stream or even watching the recording, appreciate you taking time to be here for today's session. Obviously, the elephant in the room is the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on the used car business. That's what we'll be looking at today, how that's impacting and what everyone's doing. We'll be looking at how it's impacting the auction business, online used car listings. I have a good panel lined up today. We have Stu, you can't see them yet, but we have Stu Zalud from ACV Auctions, Bill Anderson from Vehicle Acquisition Networks here, Guy Campbell from Marketcheck. I got Jasen Rice from Lotpop and James Klaus from Dealer Teamwork. I'll have all their cameras on in just a moment. I'll be looking at talking about actual marketing versus actual process. James is going to lead a segment on that. And we have a new dealer comparison report to look at by Marketcheck. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get rolling here. This is a live stream. It's recorded and then it is featured on the AutoConverse podcast, which I apologize. I'm a bit behind on podcasts. I have literally a ship full of content. I said ship with a P, full of content to get up on the podcast. We're a little bit behind, but I'm working on that. And then we also share these out on LinkedIn and social media. At the end of the panel, I'll do a little bit of housekeeping. But if you want to get up here on the Zoom, okay, and this is a webinar that's streamed live. If you want to be up here, go up to autoconversion.net, look under Masterminds, and go to Used Cars and register. And that will immediately send you your Zoom access. And the benefit of doing that is you can raise your hand and I can turn your mic on to talk. You can also use the Q&A and you can ask us questions. So let's get started. Let's feel free to use the live chat, folks, on the stream. I've got all the panelists here who you can see. Hello, hello. Got 6 guys talking about the car business. Fancy that. Stu, let's start with you. And thank you for being here. It's good to always have you back here. You're with ACV Auctions. So, the auction business, like all businesses, have been deeply impacted. Can you give us some insight on what you're seeing and what things look and feel like?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And you're absolutely correct. The effect of all this has certainly it's changed the way a normal wholesale process in many stores has functioned. Early on, when this began, there were still physical auctions trying to operate along with everybody in the digital space, which is where ACV participates. And that worked for about 4 to 5 days. And then as these states started to issue these the executive orders or stay-at-home orders or COVID-19 orders, whatever you want to call them, most of the physical sales had to, for one reason or another, to comply, cease operating. Fortunately for the auto industry, in most of the 48 contiguous states, and I believe Hawaii is as well. I don't know much about Alaska, but most of them, not all, but most of them have deemed auto sales essential in these orders, which means they're allowed to operate on some level. Here's what I saw, or what we've seen at this point. When all this started, the appetite for both cashing deals and turning what I call frozen assets into cash, the appetite was extremely large, and dealers were putting used car inventory that maybe wasn't essential back into the bank in terms of cash. While that was happening, there was also a great appetite for individuals to source inventory, and those people looking for deals could find them. And obviously some of the larger players can afford to to buy them today and sit on them and sell them later. That's still going on. The pricing is becoming far more aggressive in terms of what it sells for. And I don't know if anybody saw the RVI thing article today in auto remarketing, but their estimates are that the market's probably going to drop in valuation somewhere between 10 and 15% before it starts to bounce back. I think that's relatively realistic. We're seeing that right now in the cars that are selling. What's happening is we're still listing a lot of cars where we're permitted, following all the protocols that are necessary for safety. But we're listing more cars, and our sell-through rate is not nearly as robust as it normally is. In a normal market, ACV will sell 60 to 70% of what we post. We're probably in the 45 to 50% range right now, and in some markets probably lower than that. Brian, it's a market by market look right now. There is no uniform number. Here's one thing I will say to the entire audience: a car today, right now, is worth what somebody will pay for it. There is no valuation that works right now. There's no number that you can say, well, whatever that source is says this car is worth that. Those numbers are gone for right now. I think eventually they'll come back and there'll be some benchmarks. But right now, I would suggest as a strategy, if you need to cash out, if there's a bid on your car, you accept that bid as being somewhat market reflective and sell your car, even if it's not exactly what you wanted. I mean, $10,000 in the bank is still better than nothing and having a $12,000 inventory piece sitting on your lot if you can't sell it. So that's kind of where the market is right now. I think it's stabilizing. Hopefully some of these sales will get reopened at some point in time in the not too distant future. Our business is better than it's ever been in terms of interest because we still provide a very, very robust way to create commerce within the marketplaces that are still functioning.
Virtual auctions aren't prohibited, right? Just the physical?
The physicals are prohibitive. There's no, as long as we follow protocol, we run our sales all day, every day, 6 days a week. We actually sold 20 cars last Sunday for dealers on our marketplace, because once we have the car listed, you can launch it yourself as a dealer from your cell phone sitting in your living room if you want. You can change the price if you want, the floor price that you're asking for the car, you can change that if you want, or you can leave it the same and just relaunch it. So yeah, virtual is still operational. The problem is the staffing of it and following the protocol. We have some markets where we run out of gloves and masks, and when that happens, our inspectors stay home until we reload them. I will tell you, we're scouring every possible venue across the United States. Most of our gloves are orange. That's our logo color. So we have everybody running around in orange gloves. They kind of look like Ozo the Clown a little bit, but they have masks and clowns and steering wheel covers and all the precautions, sanitizers, all the precautions that are necessary. And dealers normally just take their keys that they're going to do and put them over the visor. We come and inspect the car, and then we either put the car keys back into a drop box. So there is no human contact. Pretty neat.
Can you, before we move on to Bill here, and I just want to say hi to Tim, who I see on the live feed here, Tim Bartz. What's up, Tim? And I guess, James, you and Tim know each other, so that's cool. You had said about a 20 to 25% drop, and I missed, were you talking about in auction sales or were you referring to used car sales?
Valuations, 10 to 15%, and that's RVI's number this morning on auto remarketing. And they're a pretty good tracking number. I haven't seen anything yet from Power. I haven't seen anything yet from Black Book, but based on what we're seeing in terms of sell-through rate and pricing, I think that 10% number is realistic. Maybe there's some segments that will see less than that, but there probably are some segments that'll see a greater number than that. And that's all happened in the last 3 weeks. So if you do have the ability and the cash flow to buy some inventory, there's some guys out there that have it priced right that just want to turn it back into whatever cash is possible. There's deals to be had. Mm-hmm. And flip side, if you need to sell something, just remember that the one critical component, more so today than ever before, is where you start that auction value, because you need to engage bidders and buyers. they're still out there and they have a lot more time on their hands too.
Stu, are you seeing if the dealers that were deemed essentials, are you seeing them acquiring more cars, less cars?
Guy, I think
that were non-essential, sending cars to them?
I would say for sure that's the case. But I also think the larger the operation, the larger the dealer group, the deeper the pockets, the more appetite there is. Because here's the difference between this and everything else that we've faced in the last 35 years. There's no real end date. Every disaster that's come across our bow, whether it be natural or man-made, has always had a start and finish, pretty much. This doesn't have a finish right now. So I think that there's gamblers. They're saying I can take the risk and my pockets are deep enough. And there's also people that are not in that position, that are probably just in the opposite position where, I've got 50 and my last month I sold 14. So I need to get rid of about 30 cars. The best way to do it is in a wholesale basis, because you can create cash quicker with that process than anything else. The other thing that has happened that's part of this equation, the flow of titling and titles has slowed dramatically. And we had a call today, and we're working on a process right now with all states and just trying to give everybody a heads up on who's open, who's closed. And that varies within states as well. Some states have departments open in certain counties and closed in others. So titling has become far more challenging right now until we get through this. Does that answer the question, Guy?
Yes.
I want to turn to Bill, if we can, Bill. Sorry, I gotta set some here. You're with Vehicle Acquisition Network. You guys help work with dealers to connect private sellers with dealers. So you
Correct.
have a good pulse on used vehicle listings from private sellers. So what kind of differences and change have you been able to detect, in that regard?
Well, there's certainly still people trying to sell cars. In a lot of cases, that might be that spare car, that third or fourth car that they just don't need in their family. That seems to be what's going on mostly now. Actually, the state of Florida for us has been pretty good. We have a couple of dealers that are doing really well, changed their processes, and I think that's helped them as well, doing remote appraisals to go buy those cars from those consumers. But listings themselves are way down, in my opinion. It's hard for us to tell just because of the moving landscape, clients coming on, coming off, kind of like Stu said. We don't exactly know what markets are being affected where, but dealerships are closing their sales departments almost completely. Every day I get a call about a sales department that's being closed so that they can't buy if they're not there. So that's certainly affecting everybody's bottom line, negative or positive. Certainly letting a car sit on anybody's lot is devaluing that car. How far that's going to be, I certainly hope what Stu's saying, 10%, 15% is going to kind of be a max number for us. Mm-hmm. But the numbers are down quite a bit. We are seeing some success earlier, but the last week or so it's been down. There's no doubt. Total listings down in the market as far as from the for sale by owner cars that our dealers like to go after and get for themselves and to source. We don't have really the option as much on that side, but we do believe that you have to buy everything, and you have to have both a wholesale and a retail strategy. And if you can buy the car right and flip it onto ACV or any other online auction right now and make a couple of bucks and still keep your people employed and moving forward, that's where we're suggesting most of our dealers look for their current strategy. It's evolving so quickly, guys. I don't think anybody knows truly what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, in Illinois, the biggest dealer in the state for the last 15 of the last 20 years, they closed down well before they had to for safety concerns for their own staff. And these guys are big boys, but they're players too. They're also really smart. They're intelligent. They're better off just closing it down, keeping everybody safe for the time being, and playing it from there. Stu had mentioned Pennsylvania. We've seen a big problem, from our clients and heard a lot from those clients in Pennsylvania. New Jersey, I think, is completely shut down as well. California is following quickly thereafter. I'm guessing Illinois is going to go the same way.
New Jersey's back open for online sales only, Bill.
Yeah,
that's one guy probably.
Right.
Michigan's probably heading that way too.
Totally closed. Yes, they are. I will say this, that anybody that still is operational is certainly pared way down from normal. It's not business as normal. There is no business as normal.
No.
If they had 6 people, they probably have 1 or 2 working. I was in a Ford store yesterday, 2 used car people, a desk manager, a receptionist, and 2 salespeople. And they sell, they probably retail close to 75 to 80 used and probably 125 new a month normally. That's one example.
Yeah, I that's actually sounds really good. I think, and to most dealers, I think that number would sound really good.
Yeah, they had a good March, but they don't think April's going to be quite as good.
I've already early results are way. Guys, I have the same basic dealer as far as volume, about 200 a month or so, and he's hoping to do 60, 70 this month.
Yeah.
James, when we get into your segment towards the end here about marketing, I want to focus on the opportunities at hand, because that we're alluding to here. Their operations are shutting down, but people still have needs. People are still scouring websites. There's still market out there. It's not like the market's gone. So I'm looking forward to that segment, because I think there's a lot that we can do industry-wise to help dealers tap into those markets, because consumers aren't sure what to do. And the other thing is, we're at the early stage of the shutdown, right? So everything's kind of like skidding to a halt. Well, at some point, we all need something to do. So we can't speculate. We can't speculate too much. But I look forward to that part of the segment. What I'd like to do, and thank you, Bill, for enlightening us on that. Jasen, I'd like to turn to you. You do, I'd say, at least 2 or 3 live streams every week on Facebook, almost daily. Sometimes I pop in and I get a feel for what you're talking about, but give us, kind of consolidate it for us. What have you been focused on? What kind of response are you hearing and seeing from people, either, during your live feeds or even offline?
Well, I could take it from perspective of, we still do our weekly calls with our dealers, and they're all over the country. And yeah, with my Facebook, I typically throwing out some tips and stuff like that. But I've done 2, what I called State of the Union used car managers, State of the Union calls, where we've had, I think the first one over 100 people and close to 50 on the second one. It just happened yesterday. They're on the YouTube channel about an hour, and have dealers just sharing ideas on there on, that they're closed and they're half open and they got partial staffs, what companies they're using. One of the biggest topics on our first call is what companies to help sterilize or clean the cars and promote that to the customers. But I would tell you, on the retail end, the dealers we're talking to, the ones that are either halfway open, like I was talking about Michigan, they could deliver and stuff. Some are fully open, but have moving sales staff. But it seems like you're talking about, as they get closer to coming to a full halt, it seems like, because we encourage our dealers to continue on their weekly calls, even if they're closed, because their virtual lot is still open, talking about what James is going to talk about with marketing and stuff. Your cars are still online. People are going to searches are actually looking okay online. You're hearing reports from Cox and Auto Trader and even cars.com, searching's going on. So photos, descriptions are going to be really important, but also just your pricing. And so what happened is a lot of dealers that first week, like, one of our Michigan stores says, hey, man, we really can't sell anything. We're shut down. And most of the other stores too, that getting to that point, it's like a deer in a headlight. Everybody just kind of stops and they're looking around. They haven't made the adjustment in pricing. They don't want to touch pricing yet. Cost to market, price to market, it's staying pretty stable across the board because we're tracking that data daily out of the dealer systems, and we can see if their price to market's going up or down. But we want to encourage dealers, as it's the virtual lot's still open, you still need to pay attention to that, because you could be priced average to market, let's say 100%. And then maybe a week or two down the road, you might turn into 105%. So all these shoppers are going to overlook you. They might be saving them for when you open up. They might reach out to you to put a deposit. They might be able to see if you can make a delivery on them. So it's going to be real important, but it seems like everybody kind of froze. And I think it's going to take a week or two of those type of stores, that market, before guys start twiddling their thumbs going, okay, what are we going to do here? Should we get aggressive? Let's see if we can stir the pot a little bit, or hopefully in a couple of weeks, they start seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, hoping they're going to open the doors here soon, and they're going to start ramping up again and start making adjustments. And so I do think dealers still need to pay attention to this. This isn't a vacation. If you're shut down or half staff, or, that inventory, that $1 million, $2 million, $5 million in inventory sitting out there still needs to be managed. And you need to make decisions. Do I throw it on ACV or wholesale it? Do I still drop my prices on retail? Do I sit and wait and see what everybody else done? But some decisions have to be made. So like I said, guys right now are just kind of frozen, but I think in a week or two, things are going to open up on the retail end, and guys are either going to force things to happen or react to what somebody else forced to happen.
Jason, are you seeing your dealers actually want to talk to you more right now than ever before? Because ours are wanting to talk to us more than ever before. And we're using this as an opportunity to train and plan for the future. Because, and the major instance that I go off of is obviously 2008, because obviously I lived it. And I'll tell a story when we get to marketing about how I ended up at my Ford store. But isn't this the ultimate opportunity to sharpen your skills and the ultimate opportunity to really learn the used car market? Everybody says they know it until you actually dig in.
Yeah. And I think, we're getting more and more dealers attending, but they're also, they don't know what to do. They don't want to make enough adjustments. As a matter of fact, I got a dealer that has 3 stores in Wisconsin that pretty much is ready to sign up with us, because he wants to use this downtime to train his staff to be ready to, when they open, use this 2-3 weeks of downtime to get good processes in place. And then when they're opening up, they're ahead of the curve. So we're getting a little bit of that, but right now everybody's just kind of like frozen. And I even told our dealers, even if you shut the doors, even if you got to do your meeting from home, get on the call, at least make it a therapy session, because you don't want to your buddies might not understand the car business. Your wife don't want to hear about it because she's been dealing with the kids all day. Who do you talk to about this? I said, so at least, if anything, if we're not making adjustments, at least hear what other guys are doing, and at least have a therapy session with somebody just to get through this stuff.
Are you hearing anything about dealers wanting to almost grab as many used cars as possible right now to get prepared for a new car shortage in the future?
No, I've been warning them, stay lean and clean. What Stu was alluding to earlier, if the wholesale drops, I'd rather be short on cars coming out of this, meaning the door's starting to open, and I'd rather give it a week or two of seeing your sale rate, because I think there's going to be plentiful vehicles out there. I think with the rental fleet companies coming in, lease returns going to get all dumped at once, because I bet a lot of people can't turn their leases in right now. You're going to have the manufacturers. There's just going to be a bunch of cars dumped into this market, and so I think if you're running lean, there's not going to be any problem. There's going to be dealers that can't handle this. And like Bill was talking about, some of these guys, they're not going to be able to make it through this, and their inventory is going to be, thrown out there. So it's just going to be a scramble. I think that if you're running lean and then you go into this and your little sales pick up and you're a little shorthanded, because here, I don't think the floodgates are going to open up. And
when this thing opens up, there's going to be a lot of inventory to buy. To Jason's point, the rental car companies have cars parked everywhere, and right now, because the market has depressed to the levels that it has, they still haven't decided to unload that. We have Enterprise probably being a little more aggressive, but they're running, I think, 300 cars with us tomorrow, actually this afternoon, I believe, at 4:00. But those cars are going to eventually have to come back into the system. And the other question, I think most of the manufacturers, Jason, have extended everybody's lease so they don't have to turn it in. Now, I don't know whether they've reduced the payment or it stays the same, but if a guy doesn't want to turn his car in today because of this, he can just pay another month, another 2 months. They're better off to leave it in a lease portfolio than try to throw it into the market right now and take a big hit. But I think think James, to answer your question, I'm with Jasen. I think less is better today, and I don't think getting it'll be that difficult. And the deals aren't going to get a whole hell of a lot better. I just can't envision that than they are right now. The one thing that is starting to happen a lot more is we've been asked to do appraisals in customers' driveways. We have a product called Live Appraisal, and we do the same thing as we would for an auction, except the car is put up into an auction platform, and then the high bidder, the dealer can sell that car to the high bidder if he doesn't like that number, or he can take that car and put it into his inventory for that number. It's doing very, very well, and it's gaining a lot of traction right now because it's a huge part of any digital sale is what's my trade worth, right? Well, now we've got a method where we can give you a real number based on views and bids and overcome that objection when the guy does get there or you deliver that new car to him. So that's part of the business that's really going to change coming out of this, I believe.
Tim Bartz, while we were talking, Jasen, while you were talking, had said, I think we need to be careful not to bail or get desperate. In 2001, we saw dealers selling low, and we're buying, and we pushed through those just fine.
Yeah, but you don't have, back then you didn't have dealers shut down that couldn't sell nothing, right? And so that's the big different. And then once the businesses come back, the unemployment rate will go back. A restaurant, if they had 20 servers, right, they're not going to probably bring all 20 back. They'll at least hire 10 back. So, but people are going to be hesitant to spend big money right now. And and then the fact that dealers were shut down, and auctions. I mean, this has never happened,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't reference any point in time over the ever to probably reference this to help dealers decide what's the best move is. And it's always better to stay lean and clean. Okay. So you might miss some bubble that you miss some little bit of opportunity, but I guarantee you the dealers that, got lean and clean going into this are man, they're in a way better situation.
Sorry, here, Jasen, are you recommending a wholesale disposition on anything then?
Well, typically I would tell dealer not to wholesale anything, retail out of it until wholesale makes more sense, right? If you're at 22 grand, but wholesale's 20, drop it to 20. Yeah. But right now, if they need cash flow, it depends on the dealer situation. If they need cash flow and they can get 21 and they've been at 20, online and no one's buying, wholesale the thing, I guess, get some cash flow going. But I mean, again, the aging policy is kind of thrown out the window. I think it was Stu brought up earlier. Any point of references that we've had previously is kind of pointless right now. I look at metrics like 30 and 45-day supply stuff. Looking at stocking metrics for what you sold in the last 30 or 45 days, or what the market is. So it's going to be so irrelevant because the market hasn't sold anything in 30 or 45 days. So those metrics aren't going to be there anymore. So I hate to say it, a little bit of gut instincts of inventory management is going to have to be there. I say that because I'm very statistician. We looked at 20 different price metrics before we adjust the price on a car, and not try to go off our gut. But you're going to have to have the feel of what's going on with your lot, with the feel of what's going on with your leads, the feel what's going on with the wholesale market and retail market, and make adjustments, because there's really no point of metric that you're going to have to look at. You have to look at it daily. We've switched all of our stocking metrics to 2-week sale rates instead of, we've been working on that for months, but instead of 30 and 45 days, because in at least a 2-week window, if things starting to drop, we're going to make adjustments. They start picking it up, you're going to make adjustments. And then we're looking at, data daily now to be able to help dealers stay on top of it. This is going to move faster than it's ever have.
What kind of creative thought or creative ideas are we coming up with? Yeah, like Stu said, you can go back to the highest bidder and maybe work with them or negotiate with them. I actually was talking to one of our larger clients, and pretty good sized group. I'm going to leave him out of this one, though. You don't want to really speak for him, or certainly not using his specific words. But he's kind of going back to some old school stuff. Like he's almost calling some of the old wholesalers that he used to pretty much throw out of the store or the group every time they visited, and seeing where he's getting some buy bids from. And he's getting a little bit, like I said, more creative. He's going back to a little bit of old school for his disposition. And not always, whatever, sometimes he believes that ACV is the right spot for this unit and OVE is the right spot for this unit, but he has the guy for this type of unit. And like I said, the guy that I had that had some success last week buying from consumers was mostly just moving those things for wholesale and getting a profit that way, because he wasn't getting a lot of profit out of his retail. He's a typical group. He doesn't have the right kind of brands where he's making a lot of car money, new cars. Used cars has slowed down to nearly, sales wise, a trickle. So he's been trying to get creative with his wholesale to maximize his wholesale profitability. Any thoughts or creative?
Before
ideas?
you answer that, I want to just do a quick orientation because we're at the bottom of the hour. That was directed at Jasen, right? Right, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So let me just do
Or
this.
Stu.
Let me do this real quick. So folks, you're here on our used car marketing panel. We started the live stream at the top of the hour. We've looked at the auction. We had Stu talk about the auction side of things, and Bill was giving us an update on vehicle listings and what he's seeing on his side. We got a couple more segments to go. I got Guy Campbell from Marketcheck, where he's going to show us a new dealer comparison report. And then we're going to really kind of get into more of a mastermind-like discussion with James about marketing and process and whatnot. And for the panelists here, if you guys have to go, before we're done, that's fine. You can just exit. But for those on the live stream, if you want to participate, I put a link in the live chat. It'll bring you here. Get yourself registered. That'll automatically generate your access to Zoom, and you can get here on the webinar with us. And that way I can turn your microphone on and you can be part of the conversation and ask questions. And there's also a Q&A feature as well. So I'm going to take the live stream offline. But again, look in the live chat for the sign up link and get yourself up here and come be part of the conversation with us. Before I take us offline,